Welcome, everyone. I'm delighted to introduce our speaker for today, Dr. Rojczyk. And that was intense. He is a scholar from the University of Silesia. Silesia. Yeah.
Yes.
In Poland. And he's here for a couple of days to see what it is we do here at the University of Utah in terms of phonetics, phonology, language learning, and also to share some of his expertise with us. As I understand it, he's prepared a talk that is meant to be accessible to the range of experience levels that we have in our community. And so we're really looking forward to that. A little more background. Professor Rojczyk is a phonetician, primarily studies language processing, has a lot of work on Polish speakers, learning English, things like vowels and VOT of English, and has studied these learners from the perspective of production and perception. He's also got some amount of work on Polish in and of itself,
Yeah,
right? So
German consonants.
yeah. So some phonetic work on Polish. And he's also a colleague who is part of the community that attends the conference, Pronunciation, Second Language Learning and Teaching, which is of course a favorite of the members of the Speech Acquisition Lab. So we're delighted to have you here to get to know you and to learn about your work.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you guys for coming. It's a great city, great campus. And I feel like home here because I've heard the word Jesus so many times that I'm back to Poland. You know, Poland is a religious Catholic country, so I feel great here. So I'm the leader of the research group at the University of Silesia. We work in the speech processing lab, and we are interested in what happens when you speak your second language, or when you listen to the sounds in your second language. So this is basically how we work. We record people, we analyze the acoustic output, and we run perception experiments. Very quickly, when you learn a second language, you notice that your pronunciation is not optimal and your perception is not optimal. And you're wondering, like, why you are different from these people who are native speakers. So people are like, okay, they have something different in the mouths, they do some strange gestures, and you know, you produce the same words, but you feel that the sounds they make are different. So we want to understand, like, what makes it different, or how they are different. And if we find it, we can implement it into teaching second language pronunciation more effectively. So when you look at the biological mechanism that we get from the mother nature, and we use it for speaking, it's extremely complicated. When you speak English, everyone around you speaks English, and it's easy. These sounds are so easy. But when you look at this from the scientific point of view, you realize how complicated this is, because everything is controlled by the central nervous system, and all these muscles and structures must be coordinated in time to produce the sounds in the target language. So it's really complicated. It's a very complicated equipment. Let's analyze what happens when you want to say ch, like church. I mean, it's easy. Everyone can produce church. Everyone around you can do that. But it's really complicated because when you want to say church, you need to coordinate in time with perfect timing. First, you need the closure, the constriction for ch. So the tongue goes to the region, which is between the hard palate and the alveolar ridge, and you make contact. You can check it like when you say, okay, contact. Then you push the air from your lungs and you build up pressure here, okay? And then you release the contact and you have explosion. It's like the balloon, you use the needle and you have the sound. So this sound is specific for this area, the palato-alveolar region. So you go like, okay, but that's not enough. because you need to have the fricative sound following, because you don't want to say tet, tet, tet. You want to say church, church, church. So you can hear this fricative component following, okay? And everything is coordinated in time. You never have problems with finding the right articulation place. It's easy, but it's very, very complicated when you look at this from the scientific point of view. So speaking is complicated. If you want to say something, first you need to create an idea in the brain of something. Okay, like you want to say cat. Then you have a phonological representation. You have three sounds, k, a, t. Then this neurons fire and the signals go into the mechanism, the vocal tract, and you coordinate in time. You say k, you open your mouth, your tongue goes down, say ah, and then you close the tip of the tongue, make explosion on the alveolar ridge, and you have cat. It takes milliseconds. It's so easy for you, but cognitively, wow, this is amazing how it happens. So now when you go home and you hear people say ch like church or check, you may say, I really appreciate your articulatory skills because this is amazing that you can produce ch. This is the real-time image of the vocal tract. Okay, the first thing you notice is that the tongue is a huge monster. I mean, we just see this. This is the front. Look at the tongue body, and it articulates. For example, when you say good, the back of the tongue will make plosion against the soft palate. The thing that is moving here, this is the soft palate. In Greek, we use the Greek name in phonetics, which is velum. So when the velum goes up, the air will go through your mouth. But when it goes down, the air will go through your nose. If you smoke cigarettes, you know what I mean, because you can puff out the air either from the mouth or from your nose. So we see this, and it's all coordinated in milliseconds, so many muscles to produce sounds. What we can't see here is the larynx. Previously, we thought that the larynx only contributes by changing the voicing of consonants. So, for example, when you say tss, the vocal cords are spread, there's no vibration. But when you say zzz, you can touch your larynx, you feel vibration. But now, by using fMRI, we can see that the larynx is very active in producing vowels, because when the larynx goes down, you increase the volume of the supraglottal area here, and you change the sounds. Because we must remember, any changes in the configurations here, even slight changes, will result in different acoustic output. So any changes make different sounds. So when people speak a language that is foreign for us, like you guys speak English as native speakers, and I speak Polish, so it's all about different configurations, because biologically we all have the same vocal tract. So it's just about configurations. We start with the acquisition of your native language. You came to this world with the software that allowed you to acquire English. It was complimentary, totally free of charge. You didn't need to pay any attention to this process. You didn't have to study the vocabulary of your native language. Who taught you grammar rules for English? No one, okay? And somehow you are a native speaker of this language. So which means that we come to this world with a software that allows us to learn the first language, but it doesn't work for the second language. It's only for one language. Obviously, if you're an early simultaneous bilingual, like you get two languages from birth, the mechanism works for the two languages. But if you start later with the second language, sorry, that's too late, and it's no longer free of charge. You need to use attentional cognitive resources to learn the foreign language. So with kids, this is amazing, because we see that when kids are born, infants, they immediately tune into the language in the surroundings. So when you were born, it was English home, your brain immediately started to tune into the English sounds. Um, when you tune in, you start to pick up words and you start to learn their meaning. See how complicated it is. I mean, kids are 2 years old. They can't even tie their shoelaces, and they pick up words from the stream of sounds, and they learn the meaning of these words. It goes on and on. The kids are accumulating the vocabulary stock, and they start to learn the phonological rules. So with time, you learn the language like cat. Is one item for you, cat, cat, cat. And then you realize that this is k and there is t. And when you change the order, you might say tap, okay? So this is when phonology comes in. So by 6 months, infants are already tuning in perceptually to the prosodic properties. So prosodic properties are intonation, and this is word stress. So for example, you start to realize that you say export, but you say to export. You see these changes in word stress. Then we have the consonants, and you see they start to notice phonotactic patterns, which is phonology. So that the sounds are separate units and they may be combined. And then with time, they perceptually segment from connected speech, and this is a miracle. If you want to see what kind of miracle this is, you can watch television in Turkish, not you. I mean, people who don't know Turkish or Hungarian, or listen to Polish television and tell me what the word boundaries are. You have no idea what the word boundaries are. Okay, so how on earth do these kids, like 2 years old, how do they know the word boundaries in their native language? How did you realize that when your mommy says like that this is a nice cat? How did you learn that it's composed of this is a nice cat? Listen to mommies and daddies talking to infants. They never say like how, 2 seconds, 2 seconds, you, 2 seconds, hon. Okay, never. You get like, how you, hon. Okay, and how did you learn to segment the words? This is amazing. It's a fantastic process. If you don't know the language, like my mom, she's 68 now. She doesn't speak English at all. So when she listens to American English, for her, it sounds like this. No word boundaries. It's just this. When you listen to Polish, it sounds for you like no word boundaries. And these infants can do this. Then we have the ability to accommodate to variations in talkers. This is the thing we're trying to understand. We can say for now that you have encoded specific talker properties from every person you have talked to. Can you imagine that? First, we thought that, you've talked to 1,000 people in your life and you have abstracted the categories from these people. Now we can more or less say that you store in your brain all these people and their voices. They are in your brain still. So let's look at the history of teaching second language pronunciation. So at the beginning, it was just speaking, okay? So we're not interested in making you sound like a native speaker. You must be communicative. We can see it coming back these days. So communication. Phonetics is not that important. Your accent is the way it is, but you must be communicative. Then they created the International Phonetic Association, and these guys created phonetic symbols for the sounds in the world's languages. So if you want to, for example, speak Turkish like a native speaker, you take the IPA phonetic set for Turkish, you see the symbols. If you're a phonetician, you know how to produce these sounds. So that was the moment when people started to pay attention to teaching phonetics, because you had symbols to show the sounds and you did not rely on orthography solely. So with teaching consonants, it was easy. For example, if I want to teach you how to say do in English, I tell you, okay, put the tip of your tongue on the alveolar ridge. The alveolar ridge is the tail behind your upper teeth, and you make plosion. But how will you teach people to make a vowel in the word cat? Like nothing touches anything, there's no contact. So he was wise enough to create the vowel chart, and it represents the area in your mouth, okay, where the tongue can produce vowels. You can produce about 250 sounds here, like vowels, so it's the ocean. And then we use this to teach people vowels because we find native vowels here, and we show people how to produce second language vowels. So this is, for example, this is the vowel chart for British English. So it's like feet, fit, set, sad, car, cot. In British, they don't say not, they say not. This is like court or the war. This is rude, and this is look, and that's bird, because in British English is non-rhotic, and this is more like about. With the analysis of speech, an important moment was when they created a spectrogram, because this shows you the visual representation of sounds. It was very primitive at the beginning. They used machine to print it out. It took a lot of time. Now we obviously use the software to see it. And this is what we use. If you go into this business of speech acoustics, you will quickly realize that you must use Prague. This is now the #1 software. It's very, very unfriendly, but powerful. And we can use this to visualize your speech, okay? We can see the details of your accents, of how you speak the first or the second language, and we can use it to measure the productions, or we can use it to run speech perception experiments. So let's look at the word two. Two. And this is something you use in English, and we don't use it in Polish. We call it aspiration or long VOTs. So in English, when you say two, when you release t, you don't go straight into vowel. We do it in Polish. We say tu, but you go tu, okay? So before you turn on vocal cord vibration, you go like, okay? And we can measure it. We can measure it precisely in milliseconds, how much aspiration you have, how much people who don't speak English as a native language have. We can measure vowels, so like in the word bad, we can precisely measure the quality of the vowel because we use the 3 formants, okay? These are concentrations of energy. Any vowel you make, it has 3 major concentrations of energy. It's like the radio. You have a channel, like the music, then it's another channel, another channel. This is how your brain recognizes the vowels. Your brain will calculate frequencies of these 3 formants, and you will identify that you said, for example, fit and not feet. So your brain is very sensitive to these concentrations of energy, and it uses them to identify the vowels. So in perception experiments, we can use this software to manipulate the sound. So we have the original recordings, but we can manipulate them any way we want. So for example, we have the original word bad. Bad. And we use the digital manipulation to shorten the vowel. And this is what you get. It's the same original word, but manipulated. Bad. And now we have an interesting phenomenon for speakers of English that it changes the lexical category for you. So bad, and suddenly you hear something like bad. We don't have it in Polish. And then what we notice very quickly as speakers of Polish is that you differentiate this word from that word, not by, say it's like Batman, not by the last sound, So for you, the or t in this word, it's just almost the same sound like. So how do you know that you say bad and not bat? Because you change the vowel duration. You do it automatically, you don't even realize it, but this is how you show the contrast. We don't do it in Polish, so we quickly notice it, that it's all about the duration. In Polish, if you want to show the difference between bad and bat, you will go like bad, but, bad, but. So you see, in Polish, we rely on the voicing of the final consonant, but you use the vowel duration in English. We manipulate the pitch. So I'll show you the original.
Hi, it's me. Hi, it's me.
And I want to be now the alpha male, so I reduce the pitch digitally.
Hi, it's me. Hi, it's me. Hi, it's me.
And I'm immediately perceived as a more attractive man because I've digitally manipulated the pitch. We can manipulate intonation. So this is the original.
Hi, it's me. Hi, it's me.
Now the intonation will be manipulated to flat.
Hi, it's me. Hi, it's me.
It's like a speech synthesizer. And now it's manipulated to rise.
Hi, it's me. Hi, it's me. Hi, it's me.
It's still the original recording. And we also use experiments with clear speech. So this is laboratory recorded, like clear speech. And we can mix it with different types of noises. You may use gray, pink, white noise. This is multi-talker babble that we frequently use in perception experiments. So these are 12 voices mixed up together. So it goes like, this is the original.
The ink stain dried on the finished page.
And now it's multi-talker babble.
The ink stain dried on the finished page.
We call it a cocktail party effect. Have you noticed that when you go to the party, there are 20 people and you are still able to talk to someone and concentrate on this person and ignore all these voices around you? If we did not have this mechanism in the brain, you would not be able to talk to someone with the voices around you because you would be concentrated on all other voices and what they are trying to say. And you are somehow able to switch off all these people around you and concentrate on one person. And let's see what happens when we reverse speech. You talk to people who don't know phonetics and you ask them, what happens when you play back the word, like the recorded word, like you have, so top. So what happens when you play it back? So people will say, there will be pot, okay, to or put. Or to. See what happens when you reverse speech. This is the original.
How do you sound when your speech is reversed?
You see, speech is not linear. Letters are linear. You see the letters and you think it goes like this. Speech is a physical phenomenon, and it goes like this, but it doesn't go back, because these are gestures and you cannot reverse the same gestures. So you don't even recognize it as English. You don't even know what kind of language it might be. When we run the experiments, we measure everything or we collect perception data, we have to use a statistical analysis. So we build models to say what the probability of obtaining this kind of effect is. And we have the magic number in science, which is 5%. It's called P less than or equal to 0.05. So this is the result that you consider as acceptable, which means that if you run the same experiment 100 times, 95% of the time, you will get this effect. If you have this kind of benchmark, you can say, I have found some truth about the world. If it's more than that, you say it's just by chance, okay? It's not the effect. So we use this magic P less than 0.05, And I'll show you now a couple of things that people do in science, and I don't like it too much. So most researchers do not seem to fully understand the statistical model they use. So people go like, if you have this effect, it must be true, okay? It's true forever and it must be true. If you go more than this, people say, okay, we reject this hypothesis because it can't be true. If you go into science, be more critical, okay? It's not like it's a boundary like 0, 1, it's always like this. You should see the distribution of the data. It's like Rachel, you should see individual differences, because what you get in science mostly is an average speaker of English, for example. It's an average speaker that has never existed and will never exist. Who's an average native speaker of English? This person doesn't exist. So individual differences are becoming more and more interesting for us. The pressure for this effect is people do this. We have the data, we use one statistical model. Oh shit, we don't have this P05 and no one will publish it. So many months and we've lost and we will not publish it. So you know what they do? Okay, let's change the model. So they test this model, that model, maybe we'll see this. And when they find something, they publish because they have this. So I don't like this, because when you have the data, if you have the truth about the world, it's one model, it's true or not, but don't try to manipulate the effect. Another thing is people use millions of independent variables to find something anyway and get published. So for example, we test the perception of English vowels by published people, okay? And we say that we find it like this is this or that, and then we introduce other variables. So tall people versus short people, left-handed people versus right-handed people, gender, or try not to do this because it obscures the final effect. Choose 2, 3 variables that are likely to contribute to the effect, but don't go over that. The problem of causality on correlations. This is what we see in science. You know, correlations, the correlation is that if something grows, the other thing will grow. Okay, and people believe that if you find the correlation, it's causality. So something that grows contributes to the other thing that grows. I'll get you an experiment, okay? Let's imagine that we have an experiment and we measure the number of shirtless photos that guys post on Instagram, okay? So, you know, there are guys who never do that. There are guys who post a lot of shirtless photos and so on. And then we take their photos, okay? And we show them to the girls, and we ask the girls to rate the physical attractiveness of these guys, like 1 to 10. And we find that the guys who post the most photos are considered to be the most attractive. And we have a scientific discovery, which means the more photos, the more shirtless photos you post on Facebook, on Instagram, the more attractive you will be for girls. And then we publish it, and the media, because you know the media love discoveries like this, so the media pick it up, and you have it like on the media, you have like, if you want to be attractive for women, you should post as many shirtless photos on social media because you will get this effect. But look, it's just a correlation. Can you see where causality is? It's not like if you post a lot of shirtless photos on Instagram, it contributes to your being perceived as attractive by women. No, the simple explanation is that guys who are fit, shredded, they have a nice chest, they have abs, they look into the mirror and they see a miracle, they immediately post a lot of photos on the Instagram. So it's just the correlation, but it's not that it contributes, because if you have guys who are not good looking and fit, and they may post 1 million photos on Instagram and they will not be perceived as attractive. So this is this problem, and you see it everywhere in science. When you start doing science, you will see this funny name. It's either ANOVA or ANOVA. And that was the model, the statistical model that was, dominating like 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And now it's for grandpas, because in science we have like fads in statistics. So that was a fad like 20 years ago. Now everyone goes into mixed models. This is a new fad. No, very few people understand how it works. People go like, oh my God, you see these equations and look, you don't understand it. So this is a new fad, and you will probably have to learn how to use it to process your data if you want to get published. So I'll show you now the equipment we use in our research. This is the nasal measurement and feedback system. Some sounds are produced by opening the nasal cavity and releasing the air through your nose. And we use this mask to check it. So when we use this mask, we can measure precisely how much air is going out through your nose. For example, in Polish, we have nasal vowels, so we use it to test how much velum opening people use for each individual vowel. We also use ultrasound. You associate ultrasound with, when you go to see a doctor, you get ultrasound to see what's inside you. We use it for studying, especially tongue positions when you speak. So the probe gets here, and we see the positions of your tongue. We use EMA. This is electromagnetic I never know how to pronounce the word. So we put you on the chair and you are here. This is the magnetic field, and we use coils. We put them inside your mouth, on your tongue, front, back, on your hard palate, the alveolar ridge, and so on. When you speak, the magnetic field allows us to see the position of the coils in 3D, and then we use computer modeling to see exactly what happens inside your vocal tract. This is the tongue. The problem with this approach is that we put, say, 12 coils with cables into people's mouth, and we told them, like, okay, now speak like you do at home, be natural. You can never be natural if there are 12 cables sticking out from your mouth, because it's strange. You cannot say t because there's a coil on your alveolar ridge. So it's nice for modeling, but the ecological validity, which is how natural it is, it's questionable. This is facial motion capture. This is the technology you associate with cartoons or computer games, mostly because they use it. We use it for studying the external articulators. So we can see precisely what happens with your lips, and everything we can see from outside when you speak. That was the project I had with the Technical University of Gdańsk. This is the city in the north of Poland. And these guys bought the equipment, and they wanted to create the system based on artificial networks. They wanted to train artificial networks with the data from FMC to create a system that will recognize visual speech. And they had plans, like they sell it. Now you have a football match and there's a coach on the other side giving instructions to his players, and you use the camera and you will read his lips and you will know everything he's telling his players. The idea was great, and they were quickly disappointed because it didn't work. And they didn't have a phonetician, so they came to me and they said, why isn't it working? And you quickly notice why it's not working. Because what can you see? You can see external articulation. It works fine for vowels, like you say, ah, or, oo, perfect. But how will you use FMC to see the difference between good. It's in the glottis, it's in the larynx, you will never see it. And they didn't know phonetics, so they couldn't understand why. And it's because many contrasts are made inside and they are not visible outside. So it didn't work, but it's very nice for vowels because you can see the vowels nicely. So this is a real-time magnetic resonance imaging, the most expensive thing, because now we can see perfectly time-locked the articulations and the structures, the configurations. So you can measure it precisely. You can see what happens if you have speech impediments. Fine, you see precisely everything. For perception experiments, we use reaction times. So we want to see how fast you react from the presentation of the stimulus. So, for example, let's have a simple experiment. We have a contrast like sick, thick, sick, thick, and we test you. So you see sometimes you hear sick, sometimes you hear thick, and you have to press the button sick, thick, sick, thick. You will have 100% accuracy. We take proficient Polish speakers of English, very advanced. They will have about 98 accuracy. So we conclude just by accuracy that Polish speakers are the same like you native speakers of English. But this is not true because you will be faster. You will react faster than the Polish learners. So this is another measure, but this is much more sensitive than just accuracy because we measure it milliseconds and we can see how fast you react. Eye tracking is used because we want to see where you're looking, okay? So there's this camera, you sit in front of the screen, we calibrate your pupils, and now we can see precisely where you're looking. So we use it for example, in this experiment, we used it to see whether the students look at transcription, the phonetic representation of English words when they are supposed to pronounce English words. Because for us, for the Polish, English spelling is a nightmare. I mean, we never know how to pronounce these words. Many words are mispronounced because we believe in letters in Polish, and in English you should not believe in letters too much. So we use transcription, the phonetic representation, and we wanted to test whether the students really make use of transcription or they only look at spelling. Some people in the lab use biofeedback. So you test physiological reactions. You present a stimulus and you measure things like heartbeat or how much you sweat or electric reactions from your skin. So this is biofeedback. You may use it for perception experiments. If you want to look into the brain, so we go somewhat higher now because we want to test lexical processing. So one of the things you can use is EEG. So we get electrical reactions from all these electrodes, and we see what happens in your brain. The good thing about it is that we can very, very nicely time lock the reaction. So we present the stimulus, we know that your brain reacted immediately. The problem with this is we don't know precisely where exactly it happened. We can say, okay, it was the left hemisphere, the right hemisphere, but where exactly in the left hemisphere, it's not that precise. What is much more precise is PET. Now we can see the reaction of your brain because you're injected with short-lived tracer isotope. So it gets into your blood, and you know that the brain needs oxygen, so it uses the blood, so the blood goes into your brain, and we can see where most of the blood goes. Because if the left hemisphere is working, it needs blood, so there will be more blood in the left hemisphere. And this is shown in the scan, so where the activity of a particular part of the brain. This is better because there are no injections now. We measure the hemodynamic brain activity. So we measure how much oxygen is burned in the brain. So if the brain uses the left hemisphere more, it needs oxygen, metabolism of the oxygen. So this is how we see it. We measure it in 3D units, we call them voxels. It's like pixels are 2-dimensional, so voxels are 3-dimensional. And then you use statistical analysis and the graphical and the software for graphical representation, and you show which areas are more active in the brain. By the way, see where the spine goes in the brain. Our brain is like an apple on the stick. It's here. It's so hard. And this is the highway. All the signals are sent from here. It goes like that. You move your left hand, it goes like here. You cut some of the highway, and you're a vegetable. So it's all the like the main street. So I want to give you the tips for using modern technologies if you ever do the research. So do not submit experiments whose sole purpose is to show how the device works. I had it when I was younger. So if they buy, for example, the reaction time measurement device into my lab, I was immediately like, I want to publish everything with RTs. I didn't know what I want to publish, but it had to be RTs. If they buy an eye tracker, we only publish eye tracking because it's, so basically you concentrate on the equipment much more than on testing anything. So find a theory that may be tested with the device. So the first thing to start, find the theory. It's like no one has ever used your equipment to test this theory. If you can use this equipment to test this theory, this is a very good starting point. Try to find how the data from your new device may contribute. You can use this device to verify the previous studies from a different point of view, and it's fine, it's okay, but just don't use the equipment just for the equipment's sake. Plan your experiment reasonably. Participants get quickly bored and lose concentration. This is something that I don't understand in contemporary science. You see the publication, they have an experiment, perception experiment. The experiment lasted 90 minutes. Can you imagine? You come to my lab and you have to click left if you hear sick, right if you hear thick, and it lasts for 90 minutes. I look into, we have a camera into the part in the lab where the participants are. You know what happens? When they come, they are interested at the beginning. So like sick, thick, thick, sick, thick, sick, thick. 10 minutes, thick, sick, thick, sick, thick, sick, thick. After 60 minutes, they go like, I want to go home, okay? And then people take these results and they analyze them as if they were valuable results, but they are not. If you want to test people effectively, 15-minute maximum. Let them go home. No one is interested in clicking buttons for more than 15 minutes. And make sure you know how to interpret the collected data. So it's another thing. People get millions, tons of data, and they don't know what to do with them. So make it simple. Make a simple experiment. Sick, thick at the beginning. Then you can make it bigger, but at the beginning, make it simple so you can understand what you have found. And finally, okay, I know it's my personal experience. I was a student. People lose concentration after 60 minutes. Remember, you can make a fantastic lecture. You can show things that, you know, are so attractive. If you go more than 60 minutes, people want to go home. They go like, okay, so I'll be finishing soon. I want to show you something about Polish, just a few things. Polish is a West Slavic language based on the Roman Latin alphabet. When I was in Sydney in February, people asked me like, do we use Cyrillic? No, we use the Roman Latin alphabet, just like in English. It looks the same. We have a number of borrowings from Latin, Czech, German, Italian, French, English, because, you know, Europe, it's like the United States of Europe. So the interactions are happening all the time. And we have a simple vowel system. For you as speakers of English, the Polish vowel system, it's for babies because we only have 6 vowels. In British English, you have 12 vowels. But the consonants in Polish, wow, okay? So this is something impressive. The only thing you will notice about Polish vowels is that we have nasal vowels. We don't use them in English, but in Polish we have 2 vowels that when you produce them, you have to open your nose. So the soft palate goes down. And the left one goes like kąt, kąt. See, it's not kot, it's kąt, kąt.
Bound, bound.
It's not peck, peck, it's pound, pound. You've noticed that in French, okay? In French, you also have it. So we have an impressive stock of 6 affricate consonants. This is the world record. There's no other language like this in the world. We have 6 affricates. In English, we only have 2, which is ch, 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 church, j, 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 jam. 2 in English, 6 in Polish, and we can hear the difference. And what is more, they are lexically contrastive, which means they change the meaning of words. So enjoy. C, z, ch, j, ch, j. C, c, j, ch, j, ch, j. For you, it's like, well, what's that? And Polish people are like, okay, it's clear, like E, A, O, U, everyone can hear it. So it's contrastive in Polish. We have geminate consonants, something that we don't in English. Look at this word. In English, it's Buddha, 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 Buddha. But in Polish, we take letters very seriously. So Polish people look and they see it's double D. So we have to show that it's double D. We can never say Buddha because you don't show it's double D. So in Polish, there are 2 ways you can do it. We say Buddha, Buddha, see what I'm doing? I'm lengthening the Buddha, Buddha. This is what they do in Italian and Japanese. They have the same. But Polish is a unique language because you can do it the other way. And now you can separate these 2 Ds and it goes like Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. So when you have speakers of Polish coming in to speak English, don't be surprised when you have a word like I want to do it, I want to do it, and I want to do it. You say just wanna. Don't be surprised to hear I want to do it, because Polish people take letters very seriously. If they see 2 N's, you will get 2 N's in pronunciation. Or in Polish, you say getto, getto, ghetto, 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 getto, getto, get. And finally, I want to show you Poland. So this is where we are. Germany on the left, the war on the right. And this is Europe. If you want to go on holiday, we fly to Spain, very nice weather. Portugal, same. Italy, okay. Greece, very nice weather, beautiful beaches. If you want to see something very beautiful, go here. This is Majorca. This is the Spanish island. Beautiful beaches, perfect weather. And you may also fly here. This is Canary Islands. Politically, they belong to Spain, but geographically, it's Africa. But the Spanish invaded them and they have them now. So this is it. The capital city is Warsaw, totally destroyed during World War II. They were just rambling pieces, and now it looks like this. They even restored the historic center, so the old town is completely restored. In the south of Poland, we have the Tatra Mountains. They are very beautiful. You can go hiking. You have the beautiful mountains here. So they are a little bit different, but more or less, if you go to what's the town? Sundance Film Festival Park City. So in the Tatra Mountains, we have a very, very similar town, very tourist and very posh, because Park City is posh. I paid $7 for coffee there. If you go to the north of Poland, we have the Baltic Sea, okay? Not very warm. It's not like you go to Thailand. But many Poles will go there in the summertime. It will be crowded. The weather is totally unpredictable. So in Poland, we say that if you have 2 weeks at the Baltic Sea and you have only 1 week of rain, you're lucky. The weather is unpredictable. And finally, this is my hometown. It's in the south of Poland, near the border with the Czech Republic. So I was born there. And there's the river. If you cross the river, you're in the Czech Republic. Because now it's the European Union, so we don't use any documents to travel around Europe. So imagine like you live on the border with Canada, and it's just a river, and you don't need any papers to go to Canada and come back. So this is how the European Union works now. So they were separated. I remember when I was young, I needed to have a passport to go to the Czech Republic. Now you just cross the river. Many tourists don't even realize they're in a separate country. They just see, okay, the language is a little bit different, but no control, no passport control or anything. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for your attention, and thanks for coming. You devoted me your time. Thank you so much.
I want to know about variation in the production of those geminates. What controls a speaker's production using the rearticulation versus the length?
This is something we don't know. Some people will only rearticulate. Some people will never rearticulate. We tested age, doesn't work. We tested the influence of orthography, has some contributing effect, but it doesn't explain it all. Some people just choose one variant and they stick to it. Some people choose the other variant, they stick to it. And some people go like this way or that way. The interesting thing is when you ask people like, how do you pronounce geminate? They don't know. And when you show them like, do you say getto or getto? They go like, I don't know. It's so in.
So it's not associated with any accent?
No, not
like regional
no.
difference. Does it mean anything, like, does it have any social significance at all?
If you say getto, you rearticulate, you sound posh, right?
Oh, okay. So it has a sociolinguistic thing.
Slight. You will be more like very careful in your pronunciation because you will show double letters.
Okay, so rearticulation is carefulness. So like if you told
To a
people,
certain extent.
clear speech,
Yes.
for example.
But we have speakers and we put them in the clear speech mode and they will never rearticulate.
Okay, so it's entirely random.
It's a mystery. This is what you're testing. It's very individual. Some people have this or that and they stick to it more or less consistently. I don't even know how I pronounce my geminate. Probably I choose like I go this way or that way and I'm not controlling it.
Do you share the posh interpretation?
Sure, like
Do you share it? Like, do you also feel that if someone were to produce the rearticulation, that's its social meaning?
to a certain extent, if I choose rearticulation consciously, I want to show something, but consciously.
But you might unconsciously do one or the other.
I may as well choose rearticulation consciously.
Do people accommodate? Do they converge in pairs? Do they converge on
With
one of
geminates, it's interesting to test. I've never tested it. It's interesting. We should see the convergence effect. Yes,
Do we know something about the acquisition of the advocates in Polish?
in Polish. mm, the ultimate product is relatively late compared to other consonants because the acoustic differences are so slight. Because it's probably the maximum number of affricates you can produce to make them still contrastive.
Right.
If you create a system with 8 affricates, it won't be effective. They will be too close together. But these are difficult concepts. Many speech impediments in Polish are related to these affricates.
I see. Is there a developmental trajectory about the kinds of affricates that you learn, or that you acquire? Like say, dental is faster to acquire than.
This I don't know. I don't know the data on this.
A follow-up question on that. Do you know anything about like the number of minimal pairs with respect to the different, like do the affricates have a lower number of minimal pairs?
Lower.
They do.
The relatively low number of minimal pairs because the acoustic mechanism is not very effective. They are too close together. So you will prefer to have contrast like sit, because they are more further apart than so.
This is a very weird and minute digression about the kind of the technology that you presented here today. But when I saw the slide about visual motion detection or that kind of data, and I was wondering, is there anything because sign languages is also another system of like speech, right? Is it and I was wondering about these kind of visual recognition of signs and whether there's any technology about, the sign language data.
Oh, like put the probes on the, on hands and.
I know what you mean. I don't know much about sign language. All I know is that this is a real language system and that it has phonology and grammar. That's all I know about it.
Any other questions? Anyone from?
I'm wondering what it's, I can send it to you.
Okay.
I have a question. So you had mentioned one of the technologies is biofeedback. I'm having a hard time saying how that would relate to speech perception. Can you just give an example of how that would relate?
There's people, I don't know what they're testing. That was emotional language, so prosody. How you react to differences in the prosodic structure of some sentences. So how it evokes emotional reactions, something like that. Obviously, if you test like sick, thick, it doesn't show you much. It only shows you that people are stressed during the experiment. But you will not, you don't expect to have different reactions for sick or thick. No, it must be connected with higher level of phonetic or phonological processing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Like the devices you use in the lab, you said you use them for testing the use of language, right? And do you also use them to teach the language?
No, I'm not interested in teaching.
Okay.
We use these things like because it may contribute to more effective teaching, but I'm not interested in teaching. I'm more interested in psycholinguistic aspects of language processing. Obviously, you may get the impression now that I open the door to my lab and this is the functional magnetic resonance imaging, this is PET, and it looks like a hangar, and I have all these things, and I go to my dean as like, we need new fMRI, and it costs say $500,000, and they say, okay, yeah, sure, we like your science. No, it doesn't work that way. You want to do fMRI studies, you have a collaboration with people from neurology. Okay, and if you have a plan for a nice language study, you go to them. They know how to operate the equipment, they know how to acquire the data, and this is how you collaborate on it's an interdisciplinary approach. It's not like I know how to run the functional magnetic resonance imaging. I don't have education in medicine, so you need someone to collaborate with.
You showed us some eye tracking, data in real time. Was that your study?
Yeah, it was my study.
So
With transcription.
what do they prefer?
So we compared first-year students who are just starting to learn transcription and phonetics, and second-year students who already know transcription. So we found that first-year students relied mostly on the orthographic representations. Sometimes they looked at transcription, but fixations were mostly on orthography. But second-year students, if the word was already acquired with the correct pronunciation, they concentrated on orthography just like native speakers, and you know how to pronounce the word. But if the word was difficult for them or rare, they went like shh, and they extracted from transcription. You know, eyes are amazing. Can you imagine that when you read, you are blind most of the time? People don't know it. When you read, you think like you go like this and you see all the time. You are blind most of the time when you read. When you concentrate your eyesight, the pupils, we call it fixation. And at this moment, your brain can see and extracts the data from the letters. But then there's another thing, we call it saccade, and you jump to another bunch of letters. And when you jump, you're blind. You can't see anything. I mean, your brain has an ability to compensate for that and creates illusions that you see all the time, but you're blind when you jump. So when your eyes jump, you're blind. And only you extract visual data only when you fixate. So it goes like, see, blind, see, blind. When you read, you jump. So jump, 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 jump. This is how people read. And we can see the eyes like, if the words are predictable from the context or very frequent, you go like jump, 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 easy, easy, easy. Very often your brain will produce the word that it believes will be next by using mathematical probability, even if you don't really see the word. But your brain will somehow load this word into your processing system without even seeing it. And then when you see that, when you have a difficult word, like it's not frequent, you go like jump, 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 jump. Go back, let's get the context again, jump, 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 jump. So you want to go back and reread it to get the context. And you know what happens when you have an experiment like reading, and in the left corner, you show a photo of an attractive woman. And then you see you look at the gaze patterns. People will immediately, even women do that. The eyesight will go every time. You can't ignore something that is attractive or good looking. Even if you try, it still goes down.
Here's a question from Zoom from Madeline. So you've mentioned statistical analysis a few times. And when interpreting data that is non-numerical, like visual data, what needs to be done in order to convert it into a format that can be analyzed with statistics?
So visual data are expressed numerically by fixations in milliseconds. So fixation, you get the fixation, you measure the duration of the fixation. This is how we use the visual data. And if the fixation is in the target region, we set the target region around the word. Everything that is fixated in the target region is added to the total number of fixation on the target.
Another question on Zoom from Indu. It was interesting, especially the part about Germanic consonants in Polish. I just wanted to add that Sinhala, an Indo-Aryan language, the national language of Sri Lanka, also exhibits gemination, like in the word Buddha with a dental D. It's fascinating to see these connections across languages. Others is common. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the comment. Probably in Hindi, right? Hindi?
No, it's Sinhala.
Okay. So in this language, they use single articulated geminates, so they will always say Buddha, but I'm quite sure they will never say Buddha, because this is very rare and it's only attested for Polish.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much, Grace. Thank you.